Channel 2 Action News exclusive. Look closely. For the first time, we're seeing video of a woman retrieving a gun moments before she murdered her wife. She's now pleaded guilty to the crime, and Channel 2 investigative reporter Mark Winnie is live in Midtown Atlanta. Mark, there were allegations of domestic violence before the murder, but that suspect got out on bond.
Yeah, a prosecutor with the Fulton County DA's Domestic Violence Division says while the video shows the killer getting the gun moments before this murder, his experience looking at abusive relationships shows how often victims sadly stay in or return to a relationship even as the violence escalates.
In the Perkins case, it is a wife who kills her wife. There have been escalating violence.
It's a call no family should ever have to make, a desperate plea for help as life slips away. In that moment, chaos, fear, and disbelief collide inside a quiet Atlanta neighborhood. This isn't just the story of a crime, it's the story of a mother. A woman who lived for her 4 children, who wanted nothing more than peace, stability, and a chance to move forward. But when she tried to leave, when she tried to reclaim her freedom, the danger followed her. And it refused to let go. She warned friends. She warned family. She even turned to the authorities. Again and again. Each time she left breadcrumbs of fear, pleas that something was deeply wrong. Each time the system promised protection, but gave her silence. So tonight we ask, why was nothing done? Why do warnings vanish into case files, never acted on until it's too late? Why does the system so often fail women who cry out for help? And most importantly, what really happened on that night in Atlanta, when Cornishia Butler's life was stolen in front of her children? If you're new here, welcome to the channel. I cover stories that matter, stories too often overlooked. If you believe in giving victims a voice, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video so we can keep these stories alive and push for change. Now, let's dive into the tragic case of Cornishia Butler. She was born and raised in Georgia, surrounded by family who poured love and faith into her from the very beginning. Her childhood was shaped by strong ties, a faith-driven home, and a community that believed in sticking together through thick and thin. Friends say she was a light in every room. The type of person who didn't just enter quietly, she lifted the energy, made people laugh, made them feel safe. A devoted daughter. A loyal friend. The one you could call at 2 a.m. and know she'd answer no matter what. But above all, she was a mother. A mother of 4, and those children were her everything. They weren't just part of her life. They were her life. She braided their hair before school. She made late-night runs for medicine when one of them had a fever. She worked, sacrificed, and prayed, not for herself but for them. Every choice, every step forward, was anchored in her children. They were her joy, her reason, her anchor in a world that sometimes felt unsteady. Her family remembers her ambition. Dreams of building a better future, of creating stability for her kids. She wanted to one day open her own business. She wanted to own a home, a safe space where her children could laugh without fear. She dreamed big, even when life threw obstacles in her way. She had faith that her story was still being written. Faith that despite the struggles, there was a brighter tomorrow. And she fought every day to reach it. Loved ones describe her as resilient, as someone who didn't turn her back on others, even when she was carrying her own heavy burdens. She was the kind of woman who would give you her last dollar, her last ounce of strength just to see you through. But even as she built her future, Even as she poured herself into her children and her community, a storm was quietly gathering. One that she saw coming. One that she tried to warn others about. She was a light. But someone close to her, someone who once claimed to love her, would soon try to extinguish it. Like so many stories of tragedy, it didn't begin with violence. It began with a smile, a spark, a connection that seemed promising, hopeful, and safe. Her name was Shakia Perkins. To outsiders, she appeared confident, charming, the kind of person who knew how to pull you in to make you feel chosen. For Cornishia, who carried the weight of 4 children and endless responsibilities, that attention felt like a gift. It felt like maybe, finally, someone was seeing her not just as a mother but as a woman deserving of love. The beginning was sweet. Flowers, phone calls, late-night texts filled with promises. "You're my world," Perkins would say. "I'll take care of you and your babies. You'll never have to worry again." And for a time, Cornishia believed her. Friends remember the early days as affectionate. Dinners, laughter, the look in Cornishia's eyes that maybe, just maybe, she'd found someone who would walk beside her in life's struggles. Someone to build with. Someone to dream with. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, the warmth began to cool. The affection began to twist. And the promises of forever began to carry a different weight. It was the first glimpse of what was to come. What looked like love was really possession. What looked like care was control. Shakia began showing up unannounced, demanding to know where Cornishia had been, who she had spoken to, why she hadn't answered fast enough. Friends noticed the shift almost immediately. Friend voiceover, she wasn't smiling the same. She seemed quieter, like she was always worried about saying the wrong thing. We asked her if she was okay. She'd just say, "I'm fine. Don't worry." But we knew something wasn't right. What began as sweet gestures became suffocating ones. The texts weren't just affectionate anymore. They were constant, demanding, obsessive. Her calls became interrogations. Her visits became inspections. And slowly, Cornishia's world began to shrink. The people around her watched, powerless, as love morphed into a leash. It's a story too many know. At first, it feels flattering, someone wanting you so much, needing you so completely. But soon, it's no longer about love. It's about control. About ownership. And though she didn't admit it to everyone, Cornishia began to feel it. That sense of unease, that gnawing fear in her stomach. A quiet realization. This wasn't devotion. It was obsession. The relationship that began with love would soon spiral into obsession. An obsession that would not only consume Shakia Perkins, but ultimately destroy Cornishia's life. What will you have done if you were in Cornishia's shoes? Will you simply relocate or report to the authorities? Let me know your view in the comment below. The first cracks in the illusion of love didn't take long to show. Behind closed doors, affection had already begun turning into intimidation. Control had sharpened into threats. And then violence. October 2021. The incident was sudden, explosive, and unforgettable. Cornishia's Mercedes-Benz was set on fire. Flames devoured the car, a symbol of her independence, her ability to stand on her own 2 feet. Neighbors rushed outside, horrified. Police reports were filed. Evidence was taken. And yet, nothing meaningful was done. For Cornishia, it was confirmation of what she already feared. She wasn't safe. Not in her home. Not in her neighborhood. Not even in her own skin. She confided in family. Her voice carried exhaustion, fear, resignation. She told them what she already knew. She won't let me go. It wasn't just a bad relationship anymore. It was an obsession, and obsessions rarely end quietly. Her family begged her to protect herself. Friends encouraged her to leave, to fight back, to get help. And Cornishia tried. She sought protection orders. She reached out to the system designed to shield victims from abusers. But like so many before her, she learned a painful truth. Paperwork doesn't stop bullets. Restraining orders don't erase obsession. Every attempt to pull away was met with resistance. Every move toward freedom was answered with stalking, with threats, with harassment. Shakia Perkins was watching her, everywhere, all the time. She showed up at places Cornishia hadn't shared. She knew details no one had told her. She lurked in shadows behind the wheel of a car parked across the street, waiting, watching. The stalking wasn't subtle. It was brazen. And Cornishia felt trapped inside a nightmare she couldn't wake from. Then came the messages. Posts on social media. Cryptic, chilling, public. Perkins wrote things that sounded like confessions and threats all at once. They were directed at no one and everyone. They painted a portrait of jealousy, of rage, of someone unraveling in plain sight. Each post was a warning. Each word another red flag. And still nothing changed. No intervention. No safety net. Just silence. Cornishia was living in fear, her every move shadowed by someone who once claimed to love her. Her friends noticed her smile had faded, replaced with glances over her shoulder. Her family watched her exhaustion grow, her voice weighed down by the same refrain, "She won't let me go." And she was right. Perkins wouldn't let go. The obsession was growing. The violence was escalating. The signs were blindingly clear. Everyone saw the danger. Everyone knew the risk. But no one stopped it. And soon, that silence would cost Cornishia her life. What do you think it takes for someone to reach out for help in a situation like Cornishia's? And why do you think so many systems fail to intervene despite the obvious signs of danger? Let me know in the comment below. By 2022, the story of Cornishia Butler's life had already fractured into 2 halves. On one side, her children, her work, her hopes for a safe and brighter future. On the other, an ex-partner unraveling into rage, watching her every move, refusing to let her go. The year would become a timeline of warnings. A timeline of calls for help. A timeline of failure. She called. She reported. Officers came, took notes, and left. Nothing stuck. Nothing changed. In March, Cornishia went back to court. Another attempt to secure protection. Another restraining order. Another piece of paper between her and danger. But paper cannot shield against obsession. Paper cannot block a determined hand. She told the judge, told the officers, told her family she feared for her life. And still, she was sent home with nothing more than words on a page. By May, Perkins' behavior grew bolder. She followed Cornishia in her car. Showed up at stores she never mentioned visiting. Sent messages that blurred the line between plea and threat. Everywhere she went, there was the shadow of someone she no longer loved. A shadow she couldn't shake. By late summer, her family saw it clearly. They begged her to leave the city, to take the kids and start fresh somewhere far away. But leaving isn't simple when you're a mother of 4. When finances are tight. When the system meant to protect you insists you're already covered. Each call documented. Each report filed. Each officer drove away. And every time the threat remained. A restraining order unenforced. Stalking complaints minimized. A woman left alone in the storm. The warning signs weren't just red. They were flashing. Blinding. Impossible to ignore. But the system looked away. In October, her fear reached its peak. Perkins was escalating, angrier, more reckless, more determined. Cornishia told friends, "If something happens to me, just know I tried to get help." Her words now sound like prophecy. A chilling echo of what was about to come. And then came November 2022. The month everything shattered. The month when every ignored warning, every failed intervention, every cry for help, collided into tragedy. Cornishia's timeline had run out. What do you think contributes to the repeated failures of systems meant to protect victims like Cornishia? And how can these gaps in intervention be addressed? November 2022 was the month Cornishia Butler had feared. The month her children would never forget. A night that should have ended quietly instead erupted in chaos. Shakia Perkins arrived. Angry, armed, unwilling to let go. What happened next unfolded in front of the very people Cornishia loved most. Her 4 children. Neighbor, panicked, out of breath, she's been shot. She's on the ground. Her kids are here, they're screaming. Oh my God, please hurry. Neighbors flooded the street. Some tried to shield the children's eyes. Others pressed trembling hands against Cornishia's wounds. Every second passed like a lifetime, waiting for sirens that felt too far away. Paramedics arrived. They fought for her, racing against time, rushing her through hospital doors. Doctors worked desperately, chest compressions for lines, shouts across the trauma room. For a moment, hope lingered. Maybe she could still be saved. But it wasn't enough. Cornishia Butler was pronounced dead. A mother. A daughter. A friend. Gone in an instant. Shakia Perkins didn't run. She didn't hide. She was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. With possession of a firearm. With cruelty to children, because 4 innocent lives had been forced to watch the unthinkable. Her children's screams were still ringing in their ears as Perkins was led away in handcuffs. The same children now left motherless, scarred forever by the violence they had witnessed. Cornishia's life was gone, her children left behind, and questions about accountability remained. How many warnings were enough? How many times must someone beg for protection before the system listens? How many lives have to be lost before change is made? Her family buried her with broken hearts. Friends carried memories of laughter now overshadowed by screams. And a community mourned not only her death, but the silence that allowed it. The questions remain. The pain lingers. And the truth is undeniable. The warnings weren't just ignored, they were erased. And for Cornishia Butler, it was a death sentence. What does it take for a system to truly protect someone in Cornishia's situation? And how can we ensure that the cycle of inaction is broken before more lives are lost? At the end of every true crime story, we're left with two timelines. One belongs to the victim, a life full of memories, laughter, and dreams cut short. The other belongs to those left behind who must learn to live with a hole that can never be filled. She was everything to us. She was our rock, our joy. And now she's gone. My nieces and nephews cry for their mama every night, and there's nothing we can say to make it better. For Cornishia's family, the pain is raw, the devastation permanent. Her 4 children, now motherless, carry scars that no child should ever bear. Her parents, siblings, and friends live with the haunting memory of warnings ignored, of a life that should still be here. Cornishia's story is not just hers alone. It is part of a much larger epidemic, domestic violence. And within the LGBTQ community, these stories are often hidden, dismissed, or underreported. Love turned to obsession, affection twisted into control. It doesn't discriminate. But too often, the silence around same-sex domestic abuse leaves victims without the support they desperately need. We speak her name not only to remember her, but to remind the world, this happens everywhere. To neighbors, to coworkers, to friends sitting silently beside us. And too often, to voices that feel they won't be believed. Her death should not be in vain. It must push us to demand more from our leaders, from our courts, from the systems that promise protection but too often look away. Restraining orders must be enforced. Stalking cannot be dismissed as jealousy. Domestic violence must be treated with urgency, no matter the gender, no matter the relationship. Every unheeded warning is a failure. Every ignored plea is a risk. And every life lost, like Cornishia's, is a tragedy that could have been prevented. These reforms matter. But they cannot bring back Cornishia Butler, a daughter, a sister, a mother of 4, a life taken too soon. If Cornishia's story moved you, please subscribe, like, and share this video. Every voice matters. Every story deserves to be told. And together we can push for change.